the world-beating economic progress of China masks a dark and ugly reality. That fundamental human rights continue to be denied across this vast country. Among those who suffer most are Christians. Bishops and priests continue to disappear mysteriously. Others are seized, put under house arrest or imprisoned, sometimes for decades at a time. This is a secret video recording of Bishop John Han Dingxian of Yongyan in China's Hebei province, who was in police custody for a total of 35 years. Bishop Han appears in a caged balcony. He holds a cross aloft and unfurls messages of faith and defiance. All of this is being secretly filmed by someone hidden in the undergrowth down below. Unable to appear in person to the faithful who make up his diocese, Bishop Han's faith and courage are made manifest in a form of virtual ministry captured on camera. Bishop Han died without anyone from his diocese being present at his bedside. A faithful servant of the church to his dying day, at his death he was denied the last sacraments. His body was taken under cover of darkness and cremated. The remains taken to a grave where mourners were restricted from gathering in large numbers. To this day, his memory inspires faith and courage among those like him, willing to carry the cross in today's world. In spite of repeated efforts to crush Christianity in former times, the church in China is growing. Today there may be as many as 65 million faithful, many of whom practice their faith in defiance of the state and are forced underground. All over the world, people suffer because of their religious faith. They are ridiculed in the streets. They are forced from their jobs. Their homes are attacked. Their churches are bombed. And sometimes they have to pay the ultimate price and give their lives for their faith. In Nigeria, 4-year-old Emmanuel Jake was killed during Mass on Christmas Day. Also killed that day were Emmanuel's father, his 10-year-old sister Lillian, and his brother Richard, aged just 6. Today, Emmanuel's mother and his surviving brother and sister are grieving the loss of half their immediate family. Never will they forget that day when a suicide bomb struck their parish church of St. Teresa's outside Nigeria's capital, Abuja. In total, 44 people died and more than 80 were injured. Their bishop, Martin Igwe Izuku, later said, "Those who died were people who had simply come to rejoice in the birth of our Lord. For this they were slaughtered. They will be remembered forever." The bomb blast at St. Teresa's was one of a series of extremist attacks on church communities. By then, the intention of the attackers, Islamist group Boko Haram, had become clear. Although Christians were not the only people to be in the firing line, they were prime targets. The extremists themselves have gone on record to declare what they call a war on Christians. Their aim is simple: to drive Christians out of parts of the country. As one church leader said, "We must not look at the suffering as a sign that God has condemned us, but it is a challenge that sets us on the road to union with Christ." The story of the church in Nigeria may indeed be one of suffering, but there is another story to be told, a story of hope. Thousands of people in the country, especially youngsters, are turning to Christ. The church is growing, and today, with more than 5,000 young men training for the priesthood, Nigeria has by far the largest number of seminarians of any country in the whole of Africa. The church in Nigeria is one of many communities around the world where Christianity is growing in spite of worsening persecution and oppression. It proves that it's still true to say that the blood of the martyrs is the seed of Christianity. In the person of Shahbaz Bhatti, the struggle for religious freedom has found a new icon. Shahbaz Bhatti was a Catholic who rose to the highest levels of government in Pakistan, becoming federal minister for minorities. He dedicated his life to fighting for religious freedom. In particular, he opposed the country's notorious blasphemy laws. Set up to protect the honour of Islam, the laws as they currently stand are a source of suffering for many communities, Muslims as well as Christians. Islamist mobs invoke the blasphemy laws when carrying out witch hunts of innocent people, arson attacks on people's homes, kidnapping and even murder. The police are very often slow to intervene. Shahbaz's campaign against the blasphemy law gathered new momentum when mother of five Asia Bibi, a Christian from the Punjab province, was found guilty of blasphemy. Shahbaz received death threats following his intervention in the Asia Bibi case and his continued struggle for religious freedom. He knew the risks he was taking, and yet he refused to give up. Just 4 months before he was gunned down in the Pakistan capital Islamabad, Shahbaz Bhatti gave a powerful testimony. Here is Shahbaz in his own words.
The forces of violence, militant band organization, the Taliban and pro-Al-Qaeda, they want to impose their radical philosophy in Pakistan. And whoever stand against their radical philosophy, they threaten them. When I'm leading this campaign against the Sharia laws for the abolishment of blasphemy law and speaking for the oppressed and marginalized, persecuted Christian and other minority, these Taliban threaten me. But I want to share that I believe in Jesus Christ, who has given his own life for us. I know what is the meaning of cross, and I'm following of the cross. And I'm ready to die for a cause. I'm living for my community and suffering people, and I will die to defend their rights.
For many, the 20th century was a time of unparalleled suffering and persecution. Millions of Christians perished, more than in all the preceding centuries put together. Many dared hoped that the new millennium would see the dawn of a new era of religious tolerance. While in many countries the long, cold night of oppression has given way to new hope, elsewhere events have taken a turn for the worse. All the more so if you happen to be a Christian. Reports show that Christians are the religious group which suffers the most persecution. In the Middle East, the Arab Spring has, for many, turned into a Christian winter, with churches bombed, loved ones killed, people forced to flee their homes, and a threat of the loss of Christianity in its ancient heartland. Countries such as Sudan and Eritrea are of grave concern too. According to Archbishop Silvano Tomasi, the Holy See's permanent observer to the United Nations, 70% of the world's population lives in countries with high restrictions on religious beliefs and practices. Pope Benedict XVI recently declared, and I quote, "Many Christians experience daily affronts and often live in fear because of their pursuit of truth, their faith in Jesus Christ, and their heartfelt plea for respect for religious freedom. The Pope has described religious freedom as the first of human rights, since it expresses the fundamental reality of the human person. Together, we can build a world where religious freedom is the first human right. As a Catholic charity, Aid to the Church in Need is committed to ensuring that, at the very least, those who are persecuted are not forgotten. We will not forget Emmanuel Jake, the 4-year-old boy from Nigeria, killed on Christmas Day, or Shahbaz Bhatti, the religious freedom campaigner in Pakistan, or indeed John Han, the bishop from China who died after 35 years in custody. The founder of Aid to the Church in Need, Father Werenfried van Straten, famously said, "They are being tested in faith, we are being tested in love." We can only begin to respond to the cries of those who suffer for their faith by listening to their story and working together in the cause of religious freedom. Will you be their hope?